Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the SH Figuarts DODORIA, and I am very happy to be reviewing this guy because I've been wanting DODORIA and Zarbon since the beginning of the line, or at least since I started collecting it. So happy to have them made finally. Good news is, it's got a lot of good things going on here. Bad news is, it kind of has the same amount of bad things going on too. So, as usual, there's some stuff to talk about. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about, let's say, 6.5 inches to the top of his head, and that's going to make him pretty close to 16.5 centimeters. And before we get into the rest of the review, we're going to mix the question of the day in with the aesthetic. Do you think this purple is too bright? To me, it is. It needs to be more of like a deeper, dark indigo. Not completely like dark like these pants are, but a lot darker than this. And this is not dark enough in my estimation. And I would prefer his pink to be less bubblegum and just a little bit more of a fuchsia. But this is acceptable enough depending on which source material you're looking at. I'm curious what you guys think. Okay, so let's talk about it. First things first, I want to point out this guy is made in Vietnam. Does it have a lot of problems as a result? I don't think so. We do have some loose joint issues, but nothing too terrible. And there's really no paint on here to speak of, so I don't know what to say about that. Though they did do good paint work in the Vietnamese factory a few times at least. So as I mentioned, there's really no paint to speak of, and that's because all of these parts are molded plastic. It's almost like a model kit. Like, yeah, it's good that it's molded so you don't have to worry about uniformity or bleeding on the edges or anything like that, but there's also zero paint work. Like, at least do the line work in the brown, something, a little bit of shading on here, something. There's no paint work anywhere on the body. None. The only thing you're gonna find is this right here. On the boots, the brown cuff, and then the toes, those are painted. That's it. The rest of the body is totally molded plastic. And like I said, that does have some benefits. I know some of you like figures that look like this, that way they don't scratch and stuff. But I'm not beating mine up and taking them into the bath, so I want them to look like something on the shelf, not just molded plastic. So that's a little bit of a bummer for me. Obviously, you do get some paint in the face. It's well enough done, that's fine. The eyes look good, the lips and everything, that's fine. But we're gonna go ahead and talk about one of the alternate heads here because it's a good example of the paint not being quite good enough. Like, it's clean, but if you look inside his mouth, compared to what is advertised, there's a lot more separation of color in there than there is in here. And it's not a big deal, obviously, but when you only get a tiny little bit of paint on there, I expect it to actually look really good. But the inside of the mouth is a matte finish, and the colors aren't very saturated, so it doesn't really have any appeal. You can't quite tell what's going on unless you get up close. So yeah, the paintwork on the face is clean, but unimpressive. We do get a little bit of paint on the claws for the alternate hands, and then the thumbs on this hand, but that is it. So the lack of paint is definitely a bummer for me. Some of you might like that, but we're paying for something here, and I want paint on my figures, so that's going to be included. Otherwise, I like it though. The sculpt is really good. I don't know how they could have done the crotch any better in giving him that wide stance. They could have probably brought his legs, made his legs a little bit thicker at the top and brought the crotch in just a little bit, but I think that's fine. Depending on the source material, again, that's perfectly fine, so no problems there. So aesthetically speaking, it does have butt cheeks, by the way. So aesthetically speaking, I'm torn. It's clean looking, but it doesn't look like, it doesn't really match a lot of the other figures in that there's almost literally zero paint on this figure. So I'll go 7. 7 seems fair. Sculpt is good, but definitely we need some paint. Okay, as far as accessories go, we have 3 different heads. The smiling head that comes out in the package, then the bigger smile head, and then the yelling head. And again, you already saw that, but they look really good. The ears do pop off for the scouter to pop on, and I think that's an acceptable way to do that. The ears don't stand out as being disconnected, so that's a good thing. For the hands, we have the 2 fist hands, so we have one pointing finger hand, we have one kind of clenchy set of hands, and then one set of looser hands. They all look really good. And then we get a Dragon Ball, and I want to talk about this specifically because we've been getting these Namek Dragon Balls already. Let me grab Bulma's to compare. Every Dragon Ball we've gotten so far has looked like this. Very transparent. You can see right through them. It'll flip the image, but you can see right through him. Do you see his face in there? Yeah, you can. So this is what they've looked like so far. Very like glass, basically, like a glass marble, completely clear, nothing on the inside, nothing at all, just the red stars. And they look really good. This one, which also, by the way, is another 7-star ball. I don't know, maybe I missed something. I don't know what's going on. We have 2 7-star balls now, and these ones are very sparkly. Or this one is very sparkly. So maybe I missed where they said why this is happening, or maybe I don't remember something from the show. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but this is really cool looking. In fact, I might even like this look more. It's going to look better on the shelf, I think, because you can see the stars better. And the glitter that's in there, like, it's not completely opaque. It's not completely transparent. It just kind of reacts to the light in a weird way that makes it look kind of like it's glowing. Do you guys see the way that's moving around in there? I mean, it's not moving in there. It looks like it is. So I think that's really cool. I love this Dragon Ball. And it's probably easier to produce, I'm guessing, than this. But I don't know. But yeah, I don't know what's going on. If somebody can explain that to me, if I missed an announcement, or if I'm not remembering something, let me know. But we do have another 7-star Dragon Ball included with this guy. So as far as accessories go, I think that's pretty good. I don't know that we need too much else. So I'll go 8 out of 10. Nothing super impressive, but it's good enough. Okay, let's talk about the articulation. I'm happy to report that we do have a double ball peg for the head. The neck is also on a ball peg, but the way they did it's really weird in that it actually includes like the surrounding meat rather than just being the neck, and that's very strange. Why wasn't that all one sculpt and then the neck a separate sculpt? Having the back like behind the neck move with the head and this part stick up is weird. You don't want that. I don't want that. That's weird. But it does have that in there, so if you really do want that for some reason, you can use it. But we do have a double ball peg, which has plenty of range. That's fine. It doesn't actually function that well because of how fat his head is. So there's nothing you can do about that. But he does look down and up a little bit and rotate and lean. It's a little looser than I would prefer, but you'll be able to pose the head enough for a big fatty like this. I think that's fine. Shoulder pads are on a hinge, of course, that's fine. We don't have that slip joint that we saw before, so it's just the singular hinge, and they don't rotate like we saw before. So, as you might guess, these shoulder pads make the shoulder articulation almost useless. We have a butterfly joint in here, which brings it forward, but it's seated kind of low. And so that's fine, I guess, except it rubs on the white down here and then leaves a gap at the top. Don't really care about that, just noting it. You have your ball peg and your ball hinge shoulder here, so you get the arm's motion completely out there. That's fine. But bringing the arm forward, you can do it. You can bring his arm around like that if you want to, but that shoulder pad is just hanging out, doing whatever it wants to do, which is standing straight up like that. You can't use the butterfly joint at all with that shoulder. And frankly, you can't even really use the arms all that much with that shoulder pad. So that's very weird. From a design perspective, you can move his arms just a little bit before it starts to lift up. And it lifts up pretty fast as far as moving the arms forward. Like it's just almost unusable. That's a bummer. It is very stiff in there, which is, I guess, a good thing, but maybe a little bit too stiff. But yeah, the shoulder pads are weird in that they're totally in the way. There was nothing done to account for it. Not happy about that. Bicep swivel is fine. Double jointed elbow works really nicely. It's not ugly or anything. That's good. I like it. We have a single ball peg for the wrist, which allows the hand to move nicely within that weird forearm of his. Torso, I can show you. Well, you're not going to be able to see it. There's a big hinge and what I think is a big ball peg, but that ball peg appears to be stuck. I can't get it to do anything. So it might be shifting just a touch and maybe there's just no range. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I can't get it to go and it feels like it could break. But you do get a hinge that goes forward and back. It's probably too soft, not stiff enough, but it is there. So you can use that. And then the torso, obviously, there's not much you can do. He's so ovular. There's a little bit of rotation, but he also has forward and backward motion on that part. So that's pretty good, I guess. That's fine. His hips, these are floating pieces. So you can bring the legs pretty far forward. You lean them back, and then you can bring the legs a little bit farther forward. So he can kick pretty far. That's all right. They can go back as well. See, this guy has butt cheeks and you can still get the range out of there. I would rather they do that than what they did with Krillin and Super Saiyan 4 Goku. I don't want the cheeks preventing the range. So the legs work pretty well, surprisingly. They're not too loose, that's fine. Going out to the side works nicely. No dangly bits, that's good. Thigh swivel is right here, as you can see, that's fine. That could be a little bit tighter. Knees work okay, you get about 90 degrees, nothing special there. Ankles are on double ball pegs, so you get decent range because they're little tiny feet, relatively large ball pegs. You can move them around pretty well. You don't get a whole ton of range going forward. They do go back, and the toe hinge is the bad kind of toe hinge. It's like they have two different teams working on the Dragon Ball line. That's weird. Let me grab Bulma. I'll show you her toe hinge, because this is how you should do it. See how when you rotate that, it's just curved? There's no spiky thing hanging out? The radius, or the diameter of the hinge, is the same as the foot. That way when you move it, you don't have any weird dangly bits. This guy has a giant spike that comes down. And it's not even the diameter, it's the fact that they sculpted it to go straight down to the bottom of the foot rather than curving around. So I don't know why they did that. So he is somewhat limited in the feet, but that's almost always the case with toe hinges anyway. I think for the particular sculpt of this guy, it'll do. I wish the feet were a little bit stiffer because of his size, but I think it's fine. So as far as articulation goes on this guy, other than the shoulder pads and the weird stuff going on in the torso, I think it'll get the job done. I'll give it an overall 7 out of 10. There's nothing really impressive, but there's nothing too egregious other than the shoulder pads. And I'm going to be a little bit generous just because I don't know how much better they could have made them, even with a slip joint or something. They'd have to give us alternate shoulder pads. That's what I would opt for. Give us shoulder pads that let the arms become forward. They did that kind of with, was it Jace? Where he put his arms up? Maybe it wasn't Jace, I don't remember now. But give us alternate shoulder pads, that's the only real good solution, I think. So, I don't know. Okay, so final verdicts on this guy. It is made in the Vietnam factory. There's no paint to speak of, so we can't judge them on that. And the articulation seems to be good enough. The loosest joint I have is the thigh swivel, which isn't too bad. I guess this is kind of loose, but not really. So, as of right now, they're not having a QC problem in the Vietnam factory. They're having a we're not painting anything problem, but that's, I'm guessing, a decision from up top. So I'm going to give this guy a final rating of 7 out of 10. No paint is a problem for me. If you like it, then you're going to be fine, but it makes the figure look cheap. At least in the armor, and I'll be okay. But no paint is a problem. The weird Dragon Ball thing, I don't know if that's a problem or not. That's very strange. And then the articulation's only okay. So I'm happy to have the figure. It's not like I'm upset at all, but it is only a 7 out of 10. I wanted it to be a 9 or a 10 out of 10. Or at least an 8 or a 9. 10 out of 10 is kind of impossible with a budget. But yeah, it's fine. It's not going to knock anyone's socks off, and it's not going to really disappoint anyone too much either, I think. So that's kind of where I'm at. Let me know how you guys feel about it in the comment section below. And if you liked the video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't, you can give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. In the meantime, keep collecting.